Yo, what's good, people? I'm going to switch gears a little bit today and get into some graphic design. It's going to be pretty beginner stuff, so if you got Photoshop, please join along. I'm going to show you guys how I did this J.Sci logo. You might have seen it on the YouTube channel, but if you haven't, this is what it looks like here. And it won't take too long, but let's go into it and show you how we do this. So I'm going to open up Photoshop, create a new document. Make sure this is set to pixels. I want it 1920 by 1080, just a basic high definition screen size. And that should be 72 pixels per inch, as opposed to 300 pixels per inch if I were to be going to print. But for the internet, 72 is just fine. I'm going to call this my J.Sci logo tutorial. And click OK. Now if I hit my F key on the keyboard, I'll go full screen with the background here. And if I hit the space bar, I'll see this hand show up and I can move my canvas around wherever I want to. So first off, let's go into the layers, double click on my background, just call it BG and click OK. That just unlocks it so we can edit it. And then I want to come over here to my color picker. I'm going to pick a light gray. And if I hit Option Delete or Option Backspace, it's going to fill my background layer here with this foreground color. So if I had this set to like red and I hit Command Backspace, it's going to fill it with the background color, but Option Backspace will fill it with this foreground gray. So I'll set that back to default. And now let's work on this background here. Command minus so I can zoom it out a little bit. And I'm going to come over to my toolbar, hold down this, it'll either be a pin or a hand probably, for the burn and dodge tool. I'm going to select the burn tool. And I want my brush hardness to be at 0%. And I'm going to start around 500 pixels for the brush. I'm just going to vignette the outside of this canvas with the burn tool. Go back a couple. And then back over to that same spot in the toolbar, I'm going to change over to my dodge tool and we'll hit the inner canvas to give it a little highlight. Okay, now we got a nice basic background. Let's go up to the filter, drop down to noise, add noise, and let me boost this up so you can see it. This is what's happening. It's just going to add this noise. You can see if I uncheck this monochromatic, it's going to be colored noise, but I don't want that. We'll just have it monochromatic, black and white. And Gaussian and uniform are just different styles. So I'm going to go with uniform on this one. And let's drop that percentage amount down to 2.5-ish. You probably can't see it here, but it looks good on my screen. And I'm going to click OK. Let's just save this out to make sure we don't lose anything. And now I'm going to jump over to Adobe Illustrator. File, new. I want one artboard. This should be set to pixels. And I'm going to make it 1600 by 400 pixels. And let's call this J.Sci logo blocks. Click OK. Alright, so if I come over to my shape tool, I want to drop down and select rounded rectangle tool and just come into the middle of the screen and click once. So this dialog pops up. I'm going to make a 300 by 300 pixel square with a, let's say, a 30-degree radius on the corner, 30 pixels. Click OK. And now if you don't know Illustrator, basically this shape that we just created is made up of a fill color, which is this white. So if I change it to red, and also this outline, which is black. I want to click on this little red dash below, so this outline is now, make sure I'm clicked on the shape. Now there's no outline, no stroke on this rectangle. And click on it again. I'm going to make that just a solid black. Now if I come up here and select Align to Artboard, I'll see these alignment tools show up. I'm going to hit this one so it centers it exactly with my artboard here. I can also center it horizontally, but I don't really need to for that. I'm just going to grab this square here, drag it over to the left, but you see it's floating freely. If I hold Shift, it will only drag horizontally or vertically. So I'm going to drag this straight over to make sure it's centered with the artboard behind it. Now let's hit Option, click on this shape, and start dragging it. Hold Shift while you're dragging it, and then drop it. So let's do that 2 more times. Hold Option, start dragging, hold Shift, drop it. 1 more time. Option, drag, Shift, drop it. Now if we lasso around all these so they're all selected, I want to now select Align to Selection here, and I'm going to click this Horizontal Distribute Center. And all that's going to do is make sure they're all evenly spaced from each other. So now basically these are my blocks that I'm going to start carving letters out of. And I'm not going to do as detailed of a job as I did for my original logo, but you guys can spend as much time on this and you'll get the idea of what I'm doing. So right about halfway on the top of this first square, I'm going to just create a little rectangle. And then click my pointer tool, select both of those shapes, and come down here to my shape builder tool. And you can see these, when I roll over them, highlight each of the different shapes. If I hold my Option or Alt key and click, that shape is going to disappear. So I just cut those 2 pieces out and it reformed this vector shape that I have going on here. Now 1 more time, because I'm trying to make a J, I'm going to just drop this down a little bit here, make a new rectangle. Again, select both of those. My shape builder tool, Option click, Option click, and now we have a basic J formed. So let's go over here, select my rectangle tool, and let's carve an S out of this second block. With my pointer tool, I'm going to hold Option and drag a copy of this over so we create an S, and then hit V to select my pointer tool again. I'm going to highlight all 3 of these shapes. My shape builder tool, Option click to delete these new sections. All right, so now let's do that a couple more times and we'll create the C. Hit V to select my pointer tool again, highlight both of those shapes, shape builder, Option click these parts away. And now lastly for this I don't want it as fat as the rest of the letters, so I'm going to go about halfway, just create a box over it, and we're just going to give this a cut off look on the side. So that's the basis of the logo. I want to save that out as my J.Sci logo blocks. That way if I want to come back to it, I still can. I'll select all 4 of these letters, edit, copy, and then let's jump back over to Photoshop, edit, and paste. Now you can either do this as a shape layer or a smart object. The shape layer will work just fine, but I recommend if you're going to change this logo at all, use a smart object, because whenever you make changes to this original piece, it's automatically going to update it in your Photoshop file. So let's select that, and we'll center it up a bit. I'm going to resize it by grabbing this top corner, hit Option and Shift so it scales evenly from the middle, and then hit Enter when I'm happy with it. Sure that's pretty close to center. And now the next thing I want to do is come up to File and Place. I want to find a cool piece of artwork. I'm going to use one I just did. It's actually the same one that's in my original logo. And see, now this is coming in as a smart object as well. So if I ever change that original file, it's going to change the image that's in this background here on this file. So everything stays nice and updated. You only have to edit stuff once without having to go through and do all that hassle of over and over again. So once this comes in as a smart object, we'll see what happens. Okay, so let's resize that to make sure it fills the whole span of our letters, and select that. I'm going to put it underneath the letters so we can line it up where we want. I know right off the bat I'm going to come up to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, and then let's just drag this into place here. It's about where I want it. So up on my vector object, the logo, I'm going to hit Command and click on the thumbnail. So you see these marching ants that just selected the actual outline of the logo. If I turn the eye off for that logo and now click on my background image, this fallen angel, right down at the bottom of my layers panel, I'm going to select this square with the circle in the middle of it, and that creates a mask out of the selection I made. So you see how this black and white image just showed up. Basically what's black around it has been created a transparent, and what's white in the middle of it is showing through. If I hit this little link chain here and click on my background layer, I can actually move this independently and line it up exactly how I want it to be. Let's put it about here. And then when I click that link back together, if I ever move this thing again, it's going to move the whole logo with the background image in there at once. So turn my vector logo back on and drop it below this background image we just created. And if I'm on my pointer tool, I'm just going to hit my down key, my down arrow once, twice. Let's just do once down and once to the right. And now if I hit Command J, I'm going to duplicate that layer. On the new version, let's add a color overlay effect and make that white. Click OK. And now with this one, I'm going to hit my up key and my left key until we see that above the letters. So basically we just get a beveled look to this, a little bit of a 3D look. which I could, let's see, if I turn these both off and I click on my original image layer and create a bevel and emboss effect, I can basically get the same thing to happen. But I kind of like the style of it better like this. It looks a little cleaner to me. So on my second logo layer, the black one, we'll call this black so we can keep track of them, and we'll call this top one white. Now on the black layer, I want to create a drop shadow, bump the distance up to about 20-ish, and then the size maybe around 30, and let's bring the opacity down a tiny bit. Click OK. Alright, so now we're starting to see a lot of that depth created. We're getting a 3D look going on. The next thing I want to do is add a glassy reflection to the top of this. I'm going to click on my top layer, create a new layer above that, come over here to my Marquee tool and click the circle, elliptical marquee, and create an oval about like this over the top of that logo. Because my white is in the background here, I want to hit Command backspace and fill this all in with white. Command D will deselect that. Let me choose my pointer tool. And then I want to come back over to this fallen angel layer. Hold Command and click on the mask, the black and white thumbnail over here. So it will select that area. I'm going to click on my layer 1, call this reflection, and make a mask out of that. So now it's locked to the opacity of this logo as well. I highlight the actual white layer, not the mask, highlight this white layer. Come up to my filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and let's give it about a 3.5, 4 pixel blur. And now select my paintbrush tool. Make sure my foreground color is black. And I want to highlight the mask on this reflection layer. And now whatever I paint in black is going to disappear on this white layer. So I want my opacity to be around 40. And now when I paint over this, you can see how now we get that nice glassy effect. I want to change this layer to overlay. And let's drop the opacity just a little bit, maybe to 70. A quick tip for that is if you just select the layer and any of your numerical keys will jump in tens of percentage. So I just hit the 4, 8, 7. So if 7 is 70%, and we're going to leave it there. So the next thing I want to do is make some lens flares like the original version has right here. These lens flares just all over. And that is just a basic paintbrush that I downloaded for free on the web. I'm not sure exactly where I found it, but if you search high resolution lens flares brush for Photoshop, I'm sure you'll find a few of them. So let's just pick one of these and start playing around a little. I want to make sure my foreground color is white, and I want to make sure I have a new layer that I'm going to call flares, and we'll put that on the top. So I'm going to use my left bracket key to shrink this down a little bit and just hit it once. Pick a couple more spots, hit them, and then maybe let's try a different flare. See if we can get something cool to happen. No, undo that. Nope. You know, you really can just play around with this until you get something you like. Let's go back to that same brush and just shrink it down, I guess. And we'll make a couple more of these. Alright, now on my pointer tool, I want to come up to my flares layer and let's put that on. We'll put that one on overlay, or yeah, let's put that on overlay, and then I want to create a new mask on that. It's just going to be pure white. So with a black paintbrush, I'm going to select my basic brushes here, click OK, and choose a 300 point feathered brush. With black selected, I will just start painting and make these edges of the flares fade off in the distance, just so they're not so abrupt. Okay, so now that we got something kind of looking like the original, you know, you guys can play with this to your heart's content and find something that really matches your style. But I'm going to come in here and go File, Place. And I'm going to find my logo, so I can just put a quick copy right down in the corner. Again, grab the corner, Shift and Option to shrink evenly from the middle. Enter when I'm good with it. I'm going to bring it down to the corner, and I want to put this on a color dodge. And then let's come up to the text. We'll just make Helvetica, let's say 12 points. And I'm just going to write copyright 2013 in Deep Arts. And if I shift up, I highlight the whole thing. I'm going to hold Shift Command and hit the period a couple times, and that automatically resizes my text. The comma will shrink it down and the period will boost it up. So click my pointer tool or my arrow keys and just get that in position. And now we're going to save this out and we're done. So, you know, you can play around with this a whole bunch, do different letters in here, you know, use different photos, use a different background, do all sorts of different stuff with the lens brushes, you know, whatever you really want. Make it look like your own. Don't just copy what I do, you know. I'm just trying to give you some of the techniques to make something cool without a whole lot of experience in Photoshop. So hopefully it works out for you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos, and check me out. Peace.